The coffee had gone cold 2 hours ago, but I kept my hands wrapped around the ceramic mug anyway. I needed something to hold on to, something that wouldn't disappear the moment I looked away. Across the kitchen table, our kitchen table, the one I'd spent 3 weekends refinishing because Sarah said she loved the grain of the wood, sat a man I'd known for 8 years, my wife's divorce attorney. He had kind eyes, which somehow made it worse. Mr. Chen, I understand this is difficult, but we really do need your signature on page 12. His voice was gentle, practiced. How many times had he done this? How many kitchens had he sat in, watching someone's life split cleanly down the middle like a log under an axe? I looked down at the papers. The letterhead was expensive, cream-colored stock, with embossed lettering. Sarah always did have good taste. That's what I loved about her first, the way she could walk into a room and immediately see what it could become. Not what it was, but what it should be. I wonder now if she looked at me the same way, a fixer-upper with potential. "Where is she?" I asked. My voice sounded strange to my own ears, thin, like it was coming from very far away. Ms. Hartley thought it would be easier this way, less confrontational. Less confrontational. I almost laughed. There was nothing confrontational about me. There never had been. That was the problem, wasn't it? I signed the paper. My hand didn't shake. I had expected it to shake. "I'll need to collect your keys to the apartment," the attorney said, slided a small envelope across the table. "Ms. Hartley will be returning this evening. She's asked that you remove any personal items today." Today? 6 hours. That's what 8 years of marriage reduced to, a single afternoon to erase myself from the space we'd built together. After he left, I walked through the apartment like a stranger, really looked at it for the first time in months, maybe years. The exposed brick wall in the living room. I'd spent 2 weeks stripping away decades of paint, breathing in dust and history, because Sarah wanted that authentic industrial loft feel. The kitchen island where we'd made pasta together on Sunday nights, flour dusting her nose while she laughed at my terrible jokes. The built-in bookshelves I'd designed myself, custom-fitted to the awkward alcove by the window. None of it was mine. The lease was in her name. The furniture we'd chosen together suddenly felt like hers. Even the light falling through the windows seemed to belong to someone else now. I packed quickly, one suitcase, my laptop, the worn leather notebook I'd kept since architecture school, filled with sketches and half-formed ideas, the watch my grandfather gave me before he died. Everything else, the clothes she'd bought me to look more professional, the books I'd never read, the man I'd tried to become for her, I left behind. There was a text message on my phone, not from Sarah, from Marcus. "Heard about you and Sarah. Rough, man. Listen, I'm heading out to the coast for a few months. My uncle's fishing cabin is empty. Yours if you want it. No questions asked." I stared at the message for a long time. Then I looked around the apartment one last time. In the bedroom, on Sarah's nightstand, there was a framed photo from our wedding. We looked so young, so certain. I was gazing at her like she'd hung the moon personally, just for me. She was looking at the camera, smiling that brilliant smile that could light up a room. Even then, we'd been looking in different directions. I left my keys on the kitchen counter next to the cold coffee mug. I didn't leave a note. What was there to say that we hadn't already said, or failed to say, over the past 3 years? The door closed behind me with a soft click. Final. Gentle. Like Sarah herself, there was no drama in the ending. Just a quiet, irrevocable severance. The cabin was exactly what Marcus had promised. Isolated, basic, perched on a rocky outcrop where the forest met the Pacific. No cell service, no internet, no reminders of the life I'd left behind. For the first week, I did nothing. I sat on the weathered deck and watched the ocean. I learned the rhythms of the tide,
The particular way the light changed in the late afternoon, turning the water from slate gray to molten copper. I learned what silence actually sounded like when you stopped filling it with apologies and explanations and desperate attempts to be enough. On the eighth day, I opened my laptop. I hadn't touched my design software in 4 years. Sarah's career had taken off. Associate professor at Columbia, published in every major architectural journal, invited to speak at conferences around the world. Someone needed to manage the practical things, she'd said. Someone needed to keep the household running while she focused on her work. That someone had been me. I'd told myself it was temporary, that once she was established, I'd return to my own projects. But temporary had stretched into years, and somewhere along the way, I'd stopped thinking of myself as an architect at all. I was Sarah Hartley's husband, the man who made sure her dry cleaning was picked up and her conference presentations were proofread and her sabbatical applications were submitted on time. The man who had slowly, quietly disappeared. My fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then, almost without conscious thought, I began to sketch. It started as something small, a boathouse for the cove below the cabin. But as I worked, it evolved. The structure grew more complex, more daring. I added a workshop space, an observation tower with windows designed to frame the sunset, a rainwater collection system that doubled as a kinetic sculpture. I worked through the night. When dawn broke, painting the sky in shades of rose gold and lavender, I had something I hadn't felt in years: excitement. Over the following months, the boathouse became real. I found a local builder willing to take a chance on the strange, quiet man from the city. We sourced reclaimed wood from an old cannery. I learned to work with my hands again, remembering the satisfaction of physical creation, of taking something that existed only in your mind and manifesting it in three-dimensional space. The locals were curious but respectful. The builder, Tom, was a man of few words, which suited me fine. His teenage daughter, Maya, would sometimes bike down to the site to watch us work. "You're that architect, aren't you?" she asked one afternoon, handing me a bottle of water. "Was," I corrected automatically. She tilted her head, studying the half-finished structure. "Looks like you still are to me." After she left, I stood there for a long time, looking at what we'd built. She was right.
The boathouse attracted attention. A photographer hiking the coastal trail asked if he could shoot it for a regional design magazine. I said yes, mostly because I didn't see the harm. The article came out 3 months later. They called it Radical Simplicity. Unnamed architect redefines coastal living. Unnamed. I'd refused to give them my full name, just my first name, David. Sarah had made me David Chen, husband of Sarah Hartley. I didn't want to be anyone's appendage anymore, not even my own. My email, the old one I hadn't checked in 6 months, started filling up. Inquiries, commissions, an invitation to speak at a small sustainability conference in Portland. I ignored most of them, but one message stopped me cold. "David, I saw your boathouse in Dwell. It's extraordinary. It's the kind of work you always talked about doing back in grad school. I'm so glad you found your way back to it. I always knew you were brilliant. S. Sarah." I read the message 17 times, looking for subtext, for hidden meaning, for some crack in the professional warmth that might reveal regret or longing or acknowledgement of what we'd lost. But it was just pleasant, collegial, the kind of email you'd send to an old classmate whose career you were idly following. I closed the laptop without responding. 2 years after I left New York, my phone rang. An actual phone call, rare enough in the age of texts and emails that I almost didn't answer. "Is this David Chen, the architect behind the Tide Point series?" The Tide Point series. That's what the architecture blogs were calling my work now. The 6 small structures I designed along the Pacific coast. each one responding to its specific environment, built with local materials, designed to age gracefully with weather and time. "Speaking," I said cautiously. "My name is Jennifer Wu. I'm heading up a major urban redevelopment project in Seattle. We're looking for someone who understands how to integrate natural systems into urban environments. Your work is exactly the kind of innovative thinking we need. Would you be interested in discussing a collaboration?" I should have been elated. This was the kind of project architects dream about. High profile, well-funded, the opportunity to shape how thousands of people would interact with their city. Instead, I felt a twist of anxiety in my gut. "I appreciate the offer, Ms. Wu, but I'm not sure I'm the right fit. I work on a small scale, individual structures. I don't have experience with urban planning at that level." "That's exactly why we want you," she said. "We're tired of architects who think bigger is always better. We want someone who understands restraint, who can create spaces that breathe." Spaces that breathe. I thought of Sarah's criticism of my early work. Too quiet, too modest, lacking the bold statement that would get you noticed. "I'll think about it," I told Jennifer. I did think about it. For 3 days, I turned the offer over in my mind, examining it from every angle. Finally, I called her back and said yes. The Seattle project consumed the next year of my life. I worked with a team for the first time since leaving New York. Landscape architects, environmental engineers, urban planners, people who challenged my ideas, who pushed back, who made the work better. I learned to speak up in meetings, to defend my vision without apologizing for it, to say no when compromise would damage the integrity of the design. I learned that collaboration didn't mean erasure. The project won awards. My name, just David Chen now, not anyone's husband, not anyone's shadow, appeared in the publications Sarah used to read religiously. I was invited to speak at conferences, to teach workshops, to critique student work. I said yes to some, no to others. I was learning that too, how to choose what mattered. I was in Boston for a symposium when I saw her. Sarah was across the hotel lobby, talking animatedly with a group of colleagues. She looked exactly the same, that striking confidence, the way she commanded attention simply by existing. She'd cut her hair shorter. It suited her. Our eyes met across the crowded space. For a moment, we just looked at each other. 8 years of marriage, 3 years of divorce, all of it compressed into that single glance. She smiled, raised her hand in a small wave. I nodded back. And then I turned and walked toward the conference hall, where I was scheduled to present a paper on adaptive reuse of post-industrial waterfront spaces. I didn't look back to see if she was watching. That night, there was a knock on my hotel room door. I knew who it would be before I opened it. Sarah stood in the hallway, holding 2 cups of coffee. "Decaf," she said, holding one out. "I remember you can't sleep if you have caffeine after 6. I took the cup. We stood there awkwardly for a moment. "Can I come in, just to talk?" I stepped aside. We sat in the uncomfortable hotel armchairs by the window, 18 floors above the city lights. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. "Your presentation was brilliant, David. Truly. I knew you were talented, David, but you've become someone remarkable." "I always was," I said quietly. "You just never noticed." She flinched. "Good." "That's fair," she said after a moment. "That's more than fair. I've thought a lot about us over the past few years, about what I did, how I treated you." "Have you?" It wasn't a question. "I convinced myself I was the visionary and you were support staff. God, even thinking it now, it sounds so cruel. But at the time, I really believed it. I believed my work mattered more, that your sacrifices were necessary for my success." "They were," I said. "You got everything you wanted." "Did I?" She laughed, but there was no humor in it. "I'm professionally successful, yes. I have the career I dreamed of, but I'm also alone. I'm 43 years old and I come home to an empty apartment every night. I had someone who loved me unconditionally, who supported me, who believed in me, and I threw it away because I thought I deserved someone who shined as brightly as I did. She looked at me then, really looked at me. But you do shine, David. You always did. I was just too self-absorbed to see it. I took a sip of coffee. It was still too hot, burning slightly on the way down. Why are you telling me this, Sarah? Because I owe you an apology, a real one, not the perfunctory, sorry things didn't work out I gave you when I signed the divorce papers. What I did to you was wrong. The way I diminished your dreams, your work, your identity. It was abuse, emotional abuse. I see that now.
Her voice cracked. I'm sorry, David. I'm so deeply sorry. And if there's any part of you that could forgive me, that could consider, I'm not with anyone. I haven't been serious with anyone since you. And I know I have no right to ask, but no. The word hung in the air between us. Sarah's face went very still. No? I forgive you, I said. I do, because holding on to that anger was poisoning me, and I had to let it go to move forward. But forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean we go back. David, please. You said I've become someone remarkable. You're right, but I didn't become this person. I've always been this person. I just stopped making myself smaller to fit into your life. I set down the coffee cup. I'm happy now, Sarah. Really happy. I love my work. I love my life. I've learned to value myself without needing someone else to validate me. And that person, the one who needed your approval to feel worthy, he's gone. You can't have him back because he doesn't exist anymore. Tears were sliding down Sarah's face, but she didn't make a sound. I hope you find what you're looking for, I said gently. I really do, but it's not me, not anymore. I stood up. I think you should go. She nodded, wiping her eyes. At the door, she paused. For what it's worth, she said, I'm proud of you. I know my pride doesn't mean anything to you anymore, but I wanted you to know. After she left, I stood at the window, looking out at the Boston skyline. Somewhere in that grid of lights, people were falling in love, breaking up, making the same mistakes Sarah and I had made, learning the same painful lessons. I thought I'd feel triumphant, vindicated, the wronged husband who rose from the ashes and rejected his remorseful ex-wife. Instead, I just felt quiet, the same quietness I'd felt that day I left the apartment, the soft click of a door closing, the gentle, irrevocable severance. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts, found the name I was looking for. Hey, you still up? 3 dots appeared immediately. Always. How'd the presentation go? Good. Really good. Listen, I know it's late, but I wanted to hear your voice. Hold on, switching to FaceTime. Maya's face filled my screen, older now, in her 2nd year of architecture school, brilliant and ambitious and kind. We'd stayed in touch after that summer at the cabin, started collaborating on projects. She pushed my thinking in ways that made the work better, and I mentored her through the brutal realities of design school. It wasn't romantic, wasn't parental either. It was something else, a genuine partnership built on mutual respect and shared passion. You okay? She asked, studying my face. You look weird. I saw Sarah tonight. Oh shit. And nothing. We talked. She apologized. I told her I'd moved on. How do you feel? I thought about it. Really thought about it. Free, I said. And I meant it. 5 years later, I'm standing in front of a completed building for the first time. Not a boathouse or a small coastal structure, but a full-scale community center in Oakland. 3 stories of reclaimed materials, green roofs, and spaces designed specifically for the neighborhood kids who'd helped design it. The dedication ceremony is small, just the community members, the construction crew, and a few local officials. No architecture critics, no media coverage, no fanfare. It's perfect. A little girl, maybe 7 years old, tugs on my sleeve. "Mister, did you really build this whole thing?" I crouch down to her level. "I designed it," I say, "but it took a lot of people working together to build it. The construction workers, the engineers, the families who told us what they needed. We all built it together." "Cool," she says, then runs off to explore the art studio. Maya appears at my elbow, holding 2 cups of terrible community center coffee. "Not bad, old man," she says. She's a full partner in our firm now, Chin and Associates. The associates being her and 2 other young architects who care more about meaningful work than prestige. "Not bad yourself," I say, taking the coffee. We stand side by side, watching people stream into the building. A group of teenagers heading for the recording studio, parents checking out the child care facilities, elderly residents settling into the community garden planning room. Spaces that breathe. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Saw your Oakland project in architectural record. It's everything design should be. Humble, purposeful, human. Congratulations. You've built something that'll matter long after we're both gone. S." I read it once, then I delete it. Not out of anger, not out of pain, simply because that chapter is closed, and I've learned the most important lesson of all. Some people come into your life to show you who you are. Others come to show you who you're not. Sarah showed me I wasn't someone who needed to disappear to make room for someone else's dreams. And that knowledge, hard-won and painful as it was, allowed me to become the person I was always meant to be. "You ready?" Maya asks. "The mayor wants a photo with the design team." "Yeah," I say, draining the terrible coffee and tossing the cup in the recycling bin. "I'm ready." We walk toward the crowd together, not as teacher and student, not as mentor and protege, but as equals who chose to build something meaningful together. And for the first time in my life, I'm not looking back to see who's watching. I'm just moving forward, into spaces that breathe, into the life I built with my own hands, into the quiet, radical act of becoming fully myself.